we decided that we would work with monopolistic competition, and it's one of the important models in trade, international trade, and this is a middle between buffer competition and oligopolistic structure. So let me just show that to you. So if you were to think about where monopolistic competition is among the different markets, these are the four different markets that we think of, right? So you have a monopoly where you have just single firm, and as the number of firms increase, you're moving down that pyramid. Oligopoly has a few firms, and monopolistic competition has many firms, and perfect competition has large number of firms. Right? So if we were to think about where is monopolistic competition in terms of how many firms exist in that market structure, that's where monopolistic competition lies. Perfect competition, as we know, there's so many firms, large number of firms, such that a single firm does not have any market power. Right? They have no control over the prices. Right? And I try to make it a little fun. So if a single firm dies, no one's going to miss it, right? Or exits the market, no one's going to miss it. Okay? And identical product. Every firm produces the same product. We can't really distinguish between the two products, right? And there are no restrictions as far as entering the market. There are no barriers to entry. Right? Anybody can enter the market. Any firm can enter the market. So that's your perfect competition. Large number of firms such that no single firm has control over the market, and there are no barriers to entry. Anybody can get into the business. What about monopolistic competition? Well, there is a certain element of market power. What that means is that if we were to think about, I'll just show this on the board to you guys. If we think about the market, let's say market for clickers, right? So we think about market for clickers, and I think there are, for iClickers, I think there are only right now a very few firms that are producing iClickers or technology which is used inside classrooms. So if you think about the market, there is a demand for this product, right? There's a certain amount of demand for this product. Okay? Let's think about this demand in terms of a pie. So this is, suppose this is a demand for the product. Okay. Maybe 1 million iClickers are demanded in a year. Now, when you think about firms having a market power, that means this demand is now divided between firms that exist in this market. Right? These are all the firms. And what is the share of the pie that they have? Well, each firm, they should have equal shares, but I don't seem to have drawn it in that manner. But this is a piece of the pie that one firm has. Right? So that's what we mean by they have market power. If a firm enters a market, right, it takes up a share of the pie, and everybody else has a smaller share of the pie, right? So if you're to think about the market as a pie, and that's what we're going to do for the next few slides, we're going to think about this market demand as a pie, and if there are 5 firms get to share this market. If there are more firms, they get to share the market, and other people have less share of this pie, right? They are producing similar products. They're similar products, but they are different. There is product differentiation. You can think about your computers as well. You can think about a Mac 13-inch or a Sony Vaio or HP. They probably might have the same processor. They might be very similar, but I would have a preference for a Vaio over, say, a Dell, right? So they are differentiated products. Okay? So they try to sell their product as being better than the other producers, right? That's the reason why they have a market share, right? Because people can differentiate between these products. There are no restrictions on entry of the firms, but it is difficult to enter the market because of high fixed cost, and that's what we're going to talk about. What about oligopoly? Well, oligopolistic structure, there are few firms, they are able to keep an account of what the other firms are doing in the market. So there's strategic interactions between these firms. A firm would decide whether to produce a good or not to produce a good, how much to produce. That decision would depend upon what other firms are doing in the market. Right? In monopolistic competition, you are looking at the market demand and you are taking your decision. It is not a function of what other firms are doing. Your profits would be dependent upon what other firms are doing because they might take a share of your market, but your decisions are not going to be dependent on them. Okay? So oligopoly structure, you have strategic interactions. Okay? Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you guys the graphs for monopoly because the firm's demand in a monopolistic competition looks very similar to that of a monopoly. So there's one firm, right? Now that's very important. Whenever we're doing market structures, there are two kind of graphs that we are supposed to be thinking about. One is the graph for a firm in the market, and the other is for the market itself. There are always two graphs. Now, so there's one firm in the industry. So in case of monopoly, the firm's graph is equal to the graph is the same as the graph of the market because the firm is the market. Right? And of course, there are no close substitutes because there's only one firm producing the product. Okay? Now, monopolies can be natural monopolies that is so difficult to enter the market. And if you're the first one to enter the market and have a bigger share, then it's very difficult for others to break in. Or it might be an artificial one where the government has said, all right, I give you the monopoly powers for a certain number of years and nobody else can enter the market. What about the output and price decisions? Now, this is important. I mean, it's true for all of us, right? When we decide to take any action, we think about, well, if I do this, what are my benefits from it? And what is my cost from doing it? Right? And that's true for firms as well. Right? When they enter the market, they're thinking, well, you know, if I produce this extra unit of output, and if I sell it, what is the revenue that I get from this extra output? Okay? So I'm selling one extra unit of output, and I want to know, well, what is the increase in revenue that I get from it? What is the revenue that I get from this? And what is the cost that I incur on this, right? And revenue minus cost would give you profits, right? And so they want to know, well, are they making positive profits or negative profits? Right? That's what they're going through. That's what's going through in their mind. So since they're thinking about this one extra unit of output, should they produce it or not, we will think of these as marginal revenue, revenue from increasing the output by 1 unit, and marginal cost. Right? So they're thinking about marginal revenue and marginal cost. Now suppose this extra unit that they produce, the marginal revenue is greater than marginal cost. Should they produce it? The answer is yes, right? Because revenue is more than the cost. So if the marginal revenue is greater than the marginal cost, they should go ahead and produce this output, right? What happens when marginal revenue is equal to marginal cost? Should they produce that good? Yeah, zero profits, but they can go ahead. What if marginal revenue is less than marginal cost? That means the cost of producing that extra unit is more than the revenue they'll receive from that unit, right? Not true. So this is your point where they stop producing. They don't produce beyond this point. So profit maximizing output for a firm, irrespective of which market they belong in. Profit competition, if it's a monopoly, monopolistic competition, or oligopolistic structure, it's always marginal revenue is equal to marginal cost. There's no difference. So that's how the output is decided. What about the price? The price differs in all the market. Monopoly tends to charge a much higher price than a perfectly competitive industry, a firm in a perfectly competitive industry. So let's go ahead with monopoly. So we understand the produce where marginal revenue is equal to marginal cost. But what about the price that they charge? Well, they'll charge a price which is equal to the maximum the consumers are willing to pay, because they can, right? So this is what your graph for a monopolist looks like. And you realize that the market graph looks exactly the same, irrespective of which market you belong, right? So you have price and quantity. And as we've done before, the demand is a negatively sloping. This is what the market demand looks like. Now, when monopolist comes in, he takes this demand because he takes the whole industry, right? He takes the whole market. There's only one firm. So the monopolist comes, he takes this demand function and we superimpose the cost structure that the firm faces on top of this graph, and we figure out how much it's going to produce and how much it's going to, what price it's going to charge. So given that market demand function, you now superimpose the cost structure for that firm. You have average cost function, marginal cost, which intersects at the lowest point on the average cost function. If you don't, guys don't remember the average cost and marginal cost, total cost would be equal to your fixed cost plus your variable cost. Yeah? Yeah? And average total cost would be the average, so it's total cost divided by total output that you produce, that's your average. What is marginal cost? The cost of producing that extra unit, right? So you say, if I increase the output by 1 unit, what is the change in the total cost? That's your marginal cost. Yeah? And if you were to think about differentiating this equation, if you had a total cost function, you're differentiating it with respect to quantity. Right? That's marginal cost. If you increase output by 1 unit, what is the increase in your total cost? The average cost is superimposed in this market, and again the same thing. The equilibrium is where marginal cost intersects the marginal revenue, yeah, guys? That determines how much the monopolist is going to produce. And at this point, it is at 3. But what is the price that they're going to charge? Well, they're going to look at what the consumers are willing to pay. So wherever this line that starts at 3, marginal revenue equal to marginal cost, wherever it hits the demand function, that is the price they're going to charge. So in this case, they're going to charge a price of $14. Right? So marginal revenue equal to marginal cost gives you the equilibrium quantity that they're producing. Wherever this hits the demand function, that's the price that they charge. Well, do they make profits? We know a monopoly would be making positive profits. And how do we calculate profits? Well, it's your total revenue minus total cost, right, guys? Yeah? And total revenue is your price into quantity. Yeah? And what is total cost? Can I write this as average cost into quantity? Would that be all right? Average total cost into quantity. Look at this here. That's what we did. Yeah? So total cost is average cost into quantity. Why are we trying to express this in terms of average cost? Because we have a graph for average total cost here. So really, what is profit is price minus your average total cost, which cost, I wrote that down, into quantity. That's your profit, right? So you have price as 14. So when you're producing those 3 units of output, the price charged is 14. What is the average cost? Well, the average cost is wherever this line hits the average total cost. It is 10. So what is profits? Profits are P minus average total cost. In this example, it's 14 minus 10 multiplied by the quantity that they're producing, which is 3. And what you just did was you multiplied the length of that rectangle with the width of the rectangle. So that's 3. And so profit is this area over here. Yeah? So the profits is the distance between the price and the average cost multiplied by the quantity. Yeah? That's your economic profits. Now assume that we have the same market demand, but now many firms enter this market. What's going to happen? So we have this demand. Think of this demand as a pie. Pie. All right? So monopoly has the whole pie, right? It has the whole market demand. What happens in case of monopolistic competition? Well, this is the market demand, okay? And as firms enter the market, they divide up this market demand, right? So the demand for these firms would be for one firm, for another firm, for another firm, such that when you add up these shares of the market, you end up with a market demand. Okay? So if there were, say, 4 firms that entered the market, if there were 4 firms in the market, they are sharing a part of they're sharing this pie. So if the pie is a market demand, you're dividing up this demand into 4 shares, and each firm faces the demand function, which is 1/4 of this market demand. Okay? So there are many firms in this market. They enter the market. This is the market demand, which is a pie. They then end up sharing this demand. So each firm is facing a downward sloping demand function. The reason why they have market power is because they actually face a downward sloping demand function. They can produce less and charge a higher price. And they're facing a downward sloping demand function also because each product is differentiated from other products. Right? So that's how monopolistic competition is different from a monopoly. For a monopolistically competitive, a firm in a monopolistically competitive industry, its graph looks exactly like this. But in that case, the demand function is not the market demand. Is the demand is the share of the market that they have. Okay? And all their shares add up to the market demand. So that's what's happening. So in case of monopolistic competition, you'll have a market demand and you'll have a demand for a single firm, but in this case, a single firm is also facing a downward sloping demand function. Okay? Which is a share of this market demand. Now, what do you think happens to this firm's demand function? Yeah? If more firms enter the market to share the pie, the demand function would shrink for this guy. His share of the pie would shrink. So demand function would shift downwards. It has smaller share of the market, and also becomes flatter, which I'll discuss later. But right now I can just tell you that it becomes flatter because now consumers have more choices, there are more substitutes in the market. And that's really what happens. Other firms enter the market to eat into the share.